Hey guys, this is Alex Birdson, the Manic Scholar, back again with another Michael Teachings chart video. And who we're looking at today is Osho, also known as Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. That's how he was known while he was alive. And at the end of his life, towards the end, he started going by Osho. Um, there's a documentary on Netflix about him called Wild Wild Country, which shows kind of what happened with the community that he set up. Um, he had somewhat of a cult like following, and his commune got into some trouble with the government. But Osho has really interesting teachings. He's a spiritual teacher. They also call him the sex guru. He's got this concept of Zorba the Buddha, which is basically nurturing both your spiritual side and your more material side as one full thing, and not cutting off your material experience or rejecting it like an ascetic would. So that was kind of his teaching, among a bunch of other things. There's so many books that came out based on things he said. Um, So anyway, if you don't know what Michael Teachings is, it's this channel body of knowledge that talks about our soul types called roles that we maintain for our whole reincarnational cycle, as well as overleaves, which are characteristics that we take on for each life. Also talks about our soul age, where we are in our reincarnational cycle, and what lessons we're learning right now. Um, so yeah, this is Osho's chart. When you look at a chart, there's two sections: the essence and the overleaves. Essence is here on the left, overleaves is on the right. Essence is the characteristics of you. It's like soul characteristics that stay the same for your whole reincarnational cycle on Earth. And then the overleaves are the characteristics for just this life in particular. So what we can see here for Osho is that he's a sage, which is the cardinal expression type. Um, they're about communicating wisdom and insight, and they're all about having a unique self-expression. Self-expression is a big factor for them, and having an audience for what they have to share about their insights. Um, Sages are also attracted to comedy and acting a lot. They're also interested in music and the arts, but they usually are focused more on the communication aspect, as opposed to how it is with artisans, which is more hands-on, uh, creating new things. But his essence twin is artisan, so he actually has some of this artisan characteristics too, which is very creative. They're about being very original. They're the ones who create culture, invent new things. It's the most creative type. Um, and his essence twin is discarnate, or when he was alive, it was discarnate. So he actually had some of these artisan characteristics. Because when your essence twin is discarnate, the energy kind of supports you, and it's like it rides your shoulders. The essence twin kind of infuses itself with your own energy. He's got a couple other characteristics here in his essence. His cadence position is king, and his cadence is priest. So the king is all about self mastery, self control, excellence, but it's also about having a kingdom of some kind, being positions of leadership and authority, um, and kind of leading groups. So he's got some of those characteristics there. And then the priest is about the higher good. Um, it's a inspiration type. So it's all about the inner world, the emotions. It's very spiritual. They want to see people grow spiritually. Um, so they get involved in politics too sometimes. Like Obama is a priest. Martin Luther King Jr. was a priest. But yeah, overall, very spiritual, focus on the higher things, the higher good, um, and more, yeah, focused on spiritual lessons for everybody else. So he's got some of that spiritual stuff going on. He's got some of the king action axis stuff going on. He's got sage and artisan. So that lots of creative expression axis stuff going on. So that's all the main parts of the essence. He's in cadre 3, entity 2, which is also the entity that Paramahansa Yogananda is in, um, as well as Shepherd Hoodwin, the channel, the Michael channel that I've ordered a lot of charts from, is in the same one. Um, his male female energy ratio, he's 85 male energy, 85%, and 15% female energy. So he's more on the doing side of things as opposed to being. Very single pointed focus, going towards achieving things, achieving goals, very action oriented, with high male energy. People who have higher male energy also might have more male lives because it's a natural fit to express the male energy. Um, but every soul is going to have both male and female lives. Even if you have 100% male energy, you're still going to have some female lives. Okay, so his frequency is 41, which is right in the middle. I mean, 50 is right in the middle, but he's pretty close to the middle. So his energy is pretty fluid. He's not like more slow and assured with his pace, but he's not going super fast through things and having a ton of experiences jam packed. So yeah, his energy is somewhere in the middle. It's not better or worse to be higher frequency. It's just different how you approach things. So his previous cycles is 10. Previous cycles is how many cycles you've completed, and a cycle is going through all the soul ages, completing each soul age, and doing your whole reincarnational cycle on one planet. So he's done this 10 times on 10 different planets, going through his whole cycle already before he came to Earth and started his cycle on Earth. And for each cycle on the planet, it's on average 100 to 200 lives. So by looking at his previous cycles, he's had 1,000 to 2,000 lives on average already. The average amount of previous cycles on the planet is 4, so he's so ways away from there. But most of the charts that I've talked about are at 10. Some are more, but most of them are at 10. Jesus had 19 previous cycles, and Hitler had 7. So that gives you some context for the complexity of the soul and how that changes things. Okay, so that's everything in his essence, which stays the same for his whole reincarnational cycle. And now we'll look at his overleaves. So his soul age is old level 7. And if we look at the soul age timeline here, he's at the very end. Old level 7. The old soul age is focused on context. It's about building understanding of how everything fits together, your understanding of life through all your experiences and your whole cycle. And you're more detached, more easygoing, laid back, carefree. You're supportive of other people's paths and don't really get in the way of their path. You just accept everybody. That's kind of the themes of the old soul age. But it's you're winding down from your reincarnational cycle and getting ready to move to the higher planes, where you finish the last 2 soul ages. So this means that he's probably in his last few lives. I'm not sure if his life as Osho was his last life, but according to his soul age and level, he's in his last lives. He's preparing to cycle off and go to the higher planes. So that's pretty cool to see. So His goal was discrimination, which is also known as rejection. It's about learning how to say no to things, to leave certain things out of your life. It's about making better decisions. So you have to say no to certain experiences to develop a better discernment about how to go about things. So that was like the what this life was. The main themes of that life was about um, learning how to say no to certain things and make better decisions. His attitude is cynic, which is the one that doubts everything and usually takes the opposing viewpoint to whatever anybody else is presenting. Um, it's typically more of a negative viewpoint, but it's not really negative. That's not the best way to say it. But taking an opposing viewpoint is useful in a lot of situations. Um, it's a harder overleaf to have that attitude, but it's an interesting one. A lot of comedians choose cynic attitude actually because it really helps when they want to prove a certain kind of point. And you can see that how rebellious he was with everything, especially with this discrimination and cynic together. He's just like, I'm doing my own thing, and he even doesn't care about contradicting himself about things, because he just sees there's so many contradictions all the time. So that's kind of what was going on with his attitude, cynic attitude. He was in power mode, which is on the expression axis. It's about releasing energy strongly with authority. So the speech is really powerful, um, coming across with power mode. Um, and it's a very expressive kind of mode to have because it's on the expression axis. So there you go with those three: goal, attitude, mode, discrimination, cynic, and power. It's an interesting combination. Um, he doesn't care about going against what other people see and taking the opposing viewpoint or being rebellious. You know, those together show like a really strong personality that is very comfortable with rebelling against some other viewpoint or approach or whatever it is. So that's really interesting to see. So his centering is moving intellectual. So he's basically in the higher exalted state of energy and movement in his body. So it's like he's really connected to uh, the energy of movement, taking action, very action oriented with moving first. But then his actions will inform what he thinks about because he has intellectual second. So it's action and thinking as the main um, centering that he had. So he had two obstacles: the obstacle of greed and the obstacle of impatience. Greed feels like there's a hole inside, and people with greed usually have to fill it up with certain kinds of things. It could be more love, it could be more attention, it could be more sex, it could be more food, it could be a bunch of different things. But it could be more and more of something to cover up some feeling of lack inside. And the obstacle is going to be different levels for each person, but it's going to be a small, like a factor there to some extent. Obstacle of impatience is the fear of missing out. So you kind of want to be in some other situation and not miss out on certain things. So it can make you impatient. So those are the two obstacles he had. And then his body types, he had three body types, mainly jovial, which is like Jupiter, very cheerful, optimistic, a lot like Jupiter. Focus on philosophy, the higher things, but really, uh, a positive kind of attitude comes with the body type jovial. The archetype for that is the emperor. And then he has the body type martial, which is a very grounded, action oriented body type, very physical, also very sexual with the martial. And then Venusian is the most sensual of the types. Its natural pair is martial, but he has both those inside him. So He, basically you see all this. He's philosophical, optimistic, uh, sexual, and very sensual with those body types. So that's about everything that we have on Osho for his Michael chart. But you can see overall is he has a lot of the blue overleaves, which means that expression is a huge thing. Expression access stuff. And creativity is big because he's got artists in there and sage. But he has some leadership ability with the king, and then he has some of the spiritual leadership with priest. He's okay with being rebellious because he's got discrimination and cynic, as well as power mode. So his expression is really strong. Moving centered, high male energy, so very action oriented too. Yeah, so all this overleaves here, it's interesting because they're either blue or they're red. So the red ones are action and the blue ones are expression. So he's got a mix of expression and action for his overleaves in this life as Osho. So yeah, it's pretty interesting to see he had that kind of focus in this life as Osho, and that he's almost done with his reincarnational cycle. This might have been his last life. We don't really know, but he's close to the end at least. So yeah, that's it, guys. That's all I wanted to say about his Michael chart. I'm gonna do a couple more videos about Osho this week. I'll do one looking at his Vedic astrology chart, and then I'll do one looking at his human design chart and gene keys a little bit. So stay tuned for those. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Manic Scholar out.